2017 sitting in front of me, Tenere 1200. One of the more interesting genres to come out of the motorcycle world in the last, I don't know, probably 20 years would be the motorcycle ADV market. There's quite a few companies that are catering to the ADV market at the moment, with catalogs and accessories and tour tech and people going around the world, YouTube influencers and this sort of thing. And with that, you see many manufacturers jumping on the bandwagon: Ducati, Cagiva, BMW, of course, which more or less started the whole thing with the Ewan McGregor, Charlie Boorman movie, The Long Way Around, which is a cool movie, lots of eye candy, very entertaining. But the question always is, are they practical bikes? Are they really suited for what they're advertised as being for? Well, something like that, yeah.
Did you erase our voices?
No.
Yeah.
Well, nice looking bike too. I mean, you know, this is the thing that often goes unclaimed with these bikes, is they just make a good looking bike. The design execution is really good on these things. They stand out, they look the part, they got the mean looking headlights going on, super long swing arm on the back. It's got lots of travel on the front on this beautiful upside down forks. The only thing I don't like about these upside down forks is they're so exposed to the dirt and the dust and the grime. They're really susceptible to leaking, unfortunately. You get bugs on there and rocks, and they got this little front fender that's a token gesture of protection for it. However, you know, a lot of rocks hit that and you get chips, you get stone chips. ABS brakes on it. You can see the sensor back here, so that's kind of cool. It's got some traction control options going on. Quite a nice little motorcycle. Note the center stand on it, so that's a nice cool thing to have on a motorcycle. I don't think they offer it with the motorcycle. You got to buy it as an option. I know certainly on the Tenere 700, should you buy the 1200, should you buy the 700, all these burning questions. Biggest advice I could give somebody is, if you're going to buy something like this and go up to, say, Alaska down the road, the Dalton Highway or what have you, and the weather turns to crap, a bike like this is already empty, a very heavy motorcycle. And then once you load the luggage onto it, and perhaps even a passenger and spare tires and spare fuel and this sort of thing, it becomes a real burden. These are heavy motorcycles after they're loaded up. You start not quite Goldwing territory, but man, if you're on a loose surface, if you're, you know, loading this thing onto boats or whatnot to cross rivers down in Nicaragua or wherever, becomes a deal. You know what I mean? Compared to, say, just riding around on a 300 or a 250 or whatever. The 1200 Tenere sits at about 575 pounds dry, or maybe that's wet, I'm not sure, but the difference is probably 20 pounds either way. So that's not really a sticking point. Ben, when you look at the 700, it's only at 452, so you shed a good 125 odd pounds off this thing. And then you get all that nice horsepower as well, because the power difference between these two bikes, when you consider the weight, isn't really that much, except the Tenere doesn't weigh that much, and you get all that gobby torque backing you up when you're off in the bush somewhere, which you can do on a 700. This one's sporting Shinko 705s, on the back and the front. 120, it's got a 110 80 19 front and a 150 17 rear. Shinkos on. Tubeless tires, but spoked, so lots of give there. Nice brakes, typical Yamaha twin pot calipers on these things. Actually 4-pot calipers. They're 2 on each side, so 8 pots all together. Nice upside down forks, fully adjustable, rebound, compression. Got the preload on the top, typical. It's got an adjustment knob, and that's for the preload on the spring. Just simply turn it, twist her down. If you need more pressure, you got a passenger, luggage, whatever. This one's got a GV top box, pretty cool. Garmin, and nice readout, nice display. One of the problems traditionally with shaft drive bikes is you tend to jack on the rear end, so when you torque on it, the rear end comes up, and it really causes a lot of handling issues. So they've done a number of things to alleviate that on modern motorcycles. And one of the things you've done on this is the swing arm's really long. The motor's tight, the swing arm's long, but the wheelbase remains short still. It's a big bike, but it's still maneuverable because of that. They've kept the wheelbase short and the swing arm long so you can get a plush ride. And that's quite genius when you think about it. I mean, the motor's really cramped up. The transmission on this thing is really stacked up, and the starter is jammed towards the cylinder. And they've kept it tall but compact front to back, and then everything sits super low on this thing. Low center of gravity, so it takes a lot of that heavy feel for it, because when you get a big bike like this, you're sitting quite high up, then the weight becomes super noticeable, whereas if you keep all the weight down the center of gravity, it makes a big bike manageable. So they've done an excellent job, Yamaha, with this bike. I'm gonna go pull the 700 out, give you a little blurb on that one as well. In my opinion, it's a better bike for off-roading. The 700, absolutely 100%. This thing is more, I would say, asphalt orientated, you know, rough asphalt, potholes, and doing fire roads for sure. And it's excellent road manners, comfortable. You could really do a cross-country tour easily on this thing. They produced a cult status with the Ténéré. They were just excellent bikes. They were cheap and cheerful. They would get you to where they were going. They were good on fuel, simple. You had a carburetor hanging off. A lot of value to a bike like that if you were going into the rough sub-Saharan, away from your home in Germany or wherever you're from. So they really gained a following with those bikes. And then came the 660. And oddly enough, the 660 and the 600, the 660 they used in bikes like the MUZ Scorpion, they had it in quads. They used them in Grizzly, YFM 660 and 600 quads, and they turned out to be quite good machines. And they themselves garnered a reputation for being reliable. Just a really good engine design. Following on the success of those early Teneres, they decided to capture the market audience with the legendary XT600. They had an E and a K and a ZL, I believe. There was a number of iterations on a theme with the XT600 old Teneres. They had bigger tanks, smaller tanks. You've done a lot of Dakar racing, and they had a couple offshoots. They had an XTZ, I believe, 750 Tenere. It was a 2-cylinder with a 5-valve per pot head on it, and then they made the TDM 850 for quite a while, and that wasn't really an adventure bike, but it used that same engine. Very cool bikes. I like the old 660s. I think they were a great product. It was a long run for the old XT660. Great motorcycles. Instead of spending more on R&D on a different engine every year, they just started making an engine and stuffing it into everything. And that's the case with these Teneres. On the 700, you'll find it in the MT-07. You'll find it in, I believe, the Tracer. And so once you make a motor, they just keep doing they do a whole wide variations on a theme sort of thing. So good motors. They've turned out to be quite reliable. There's many guys out there have done 200,000, no problem, 300,000 on these Teneres with little grief. You just keep the oil change, filters, you know, keep doing the maintenance, and it'll treat you right, actually. So, but the burning question is, are these good bikes? And for, you know, their intended purpose. And actually, yeah, they're not too bad, but this 1200 in particular is more of a road going affair. It's heavy once you get it loaded up throughout the fire roads if you wanted to, but more for that than really getting into the nitty gritty for sure. But this is the updated version, the 1200, the more modern flavor of it, fuel injected, coveted trappings of a modern motorcycle rolled into one package and presented to you as an ADV bike. Take care out there, ride safe, and we'll chat again when I get another bike in. Bye for now.